just in case there are any people online who have already tuned in, it's 3 o'clock. We're going to start in just a few minutes, so we'll just give a couple of minutes for people to find their way in. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Edward Smaldone. I'm an associate director of the Aaron Copland School of Music. I was the director for 14 years and a colleague of Alex Kouguell's for many years before that and since. He was a dear, dear man. There's going to be a lot that we're going to say about him. There's a lot that you're going to see. But the first thing I'd like to do, without any further ado, is to introduce the president of Queens College, Frank Wu.
Thank you so much, Professor Smaldone. And thank you, all of you, this afternoon for inviting me to say just a few words about the late Alexander Kouguell. His son Raymond can't be with us today for this memorial, but I want to extend him a warm virtual welcome as he watches the event live streaming, and also anyone else who's at home watching the live stream. Unlike most of you gathered here, I knew Alexander only very briefly. For his birthday last year, I had the privilege of visiting him Professor Smaldone and I met Ying Ching Ma for pork buns in a robust discussion of Brahms' Piano Concerto No. 2. The pork buns were great, but the conversation was better, and it was one of those afternoons where you want just to stay in the company of someone and just to continue that conversation, which you know is meaningful, and you'll look back on that as one of those moments in your life. Alexander was so amazingly well-rounded. The son of professional musicians, as you know, he grew up playing cello and might have been expected to do nothing else. Instead, he pursued degrees in comparative literature. Then, as a performer and a teacher here, he was ideally suited to this institution. Thanks to his peripatetic upbringing and education, he understood multiple languages and multiple cultures. He could connect to our students wherever they were from, whatever their identity. He was musically versatile as well, comfortable with a repertoire spanning hundreds of years, written for everything from chamber groups, the music that you play for friends, to orchestral ensembles of the largest scale. And he met his students where they were, whether they were aspiring professionals or amateurs, just hoping to hone their skills a bit for their own enjoyment and improvement. We're so profoundly grateful here at Queens College for all the years that this master musician dedicated to our community, and for his and his family's extraordinary generosity. Alexander Kouguell taught here for 68 years. That's record-setting. It's one of the longest periods of service of any faculty member in our institutional history, and I would wager in that of any college. The Kouguell name will live on in perpetuity through the scholarship that Alexander so generously established in his name and his late wife's name. I hope that we'll have the opportunity, I know we'll have the opportunity to hear students play the instruments that Alexander donated. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you as we salute the life of Alexander Kouguell.
Thank you, President Wu. That was very nice. And now what we're going to do is let Alex open the program. This is a video of Alex watching and listening to a recording of himself playing his father's Concertino No. 2. If you really want, I mean, that's a gorgeous little piece and a beautiful performance. Alex played everything, as President Wu said. If you go on YouTube, you can find the recording he made in 1959 of the Rager Sonata. Unbelievable. Really a wonderful, wonderful performance. By the way, that from a film by Teresa Muller. Teresa is here, and she wanted me to hasten to add, to mention to everyone, that line on the screen is not her doing. It's the wire that is from the microphones that are recording. We apologize for that, but it's a compromise we need to make. Now we're going to move on to some other performances by some people here in the hall that knew and loved Alex Kouguell, and we start with Yo Cheng Ma.
Alex was a good friend and a great musician. And this piece is in tribute to his memory.
Thank you so much. That was gorgeous. There were a number of people who came and took care of Alex, especially in the very last couple of years of his life. He needed a lot of help with things on a daily basis. And we have two very special ladies that were there, and they're going to say a few words. I didn't see Joanna. Is she here? Where's Joanna? She was parking the car a few minutes ago. She's not here yet? Huh? Maybe you can start. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Then in that case, we're going to switch the order. Marilyn, you're on. Marilyn Blackett was one of the two ladies that really took such wonderful care of Alex. I would show up from time to time. They'd answer the door, lean back and go, "Smaldone is here," and they took wonderful care of him. Marilyn, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I had the pleasure of meeting Alex in 2016. And as the saying goes, sometimes you have to get to learn to know someone in order to, to get through with them. And from that day, we started, chatting because he, will come and tell me, do this and do that. I said, I must say, here it is. I can do what I have to do, and you watch at me and make sure that, I'm doing the right things. And he sit back and he would relax and watch at me. And he said, you're a very good aide. You're a very good aide. I said, thank you, I know that. And it have times where we would, especially after Florence had passed, Alex will be going on Amazon and buying stuff. What he couldn't buy for himself, bring up and he would ask either Joanna and myself to help him out. And it was fun. Sometimes he asked me to do something and I'm not as internet savvy as Joanna. And, I would tell him, I said, hey, that's Joanna's job. Yeah. And even down to his last few months with us, Alex was amazing. He take everything with a smile. And when he was in hospice, wow. He just was, every morning was something new. When I wake up, I go in the room to check on him. He would watch me. He would have some dream that he dreamt the night before, and he always have me laughing. And then one morning I got up and I went in the room, and he asked me, "What you doing here?" I said, "Why you ask me what I'm doing here?" He said, "Because I'm supposed to be on the other side." I said, "You ain't ready. The Lord ain't ready for you as yet." And he would laugh. He would, every time even when I leave from work, and I would tell him, I said, "See you Monday morning." Yeah, I'll be here. And he keep on, he was on and on and on until the last weekend when I left. I told him, I said, "Alex, I'll see you Monday." Him, "I hope so." Yeah. And with that, when Joanna called, and it was like, Alex no longer here. I called my friend, I said, "Here it is. We got to get to Queens." "No, we got to get to Queens." Him. But Joanna there said, "Hey, we got to get to Queens." I said, "Alex isn't here no more." I came, I look at him, he was a person that, grow onto you. And since that day, I missed him and missed him a whole lot. I always have to talk about him, the way how he will, address certain stuff. We will laugh and talk, especially at the time where he was okay. And it's like, it was amazing. And to see that he was in his right mind at 102. I always tell him, I said, "Alex, if I reach to a rightful old age, I might not reach to your age, but I hope I could be like you." And he said, "Yeah, You will be like me. So I'll take that as a yes. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening to me. I know it was short, but thank you very much.
Marilyn knew him for 7 years. He was here for 68. So imagine how the rest of us feel. And now she was just a minute late, but we're gonna have another musical interlude first, Joanna. So sit and relax. And I'd like to invite Walter Wisniewski up to the stage. Walter has the distinction of being of having been Alex's financial advisor. So he was these are people that that knew Alex intimately in various ways and knew him for quite some time and still liked him. That's already says something. Walter's a great guy. He also happens to be a pianist. So Walter, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Many people who have experienced meditators, when they meditate, they hear what they call a sound current, and it's a beautiful sound, heavenly sound. And the other people that have experienced that are people before they have passed have experienced this sound, and it is quite beautiful. I spoke to Alex on the recommendation of a few friends. I said, would you like to have someone come to the house and play for you? Maybe some cello music. And he said, no, Walter. He said, I hear music now that is so beautiful and so heavenly. I said, Alex, it's like really heavenly? He goes, yes, Walter, that's the only music I need right now. So Alex, I hope you hear the music. I'm sure you will hear the music that we're playing for you today. Thank you.
And now we will have Joanna Boma, who was another of Alex's caregivers. Joanna was the internet lady. We had, when Alex turned, we don't have the dates up there yet, he turned 100 on March 27th, 2020. We were supposed to have a party in this room for him on that day, but the world had other plans for March 2020. But we did end up having it on Zoom, and then we had his 101st birthday on Zoom, and then we had his 102nd birthday on Zoom. Joanna was the person who got us hooked up those times. And also, he could do a lot of stuff by himself. He was on not only shopping, but sending messages constantly. Joanna, we're very happy to have you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joanna. I'm one of Alex's aide. I worked for Alex and his wife for 6 years and some months. I remember when I first had him, I told Marilyn, my coworker, that I'm quitting the job because he asked for too much. And Marilyn said, stay right here, you're gonna like him. Guess what? He turned out to be the best patient I ever had. I didn't see him as a patient, but a grandfather and a teacher. I was in nursing school whilst I was working with him. And I must say that he gave me all the support I needed, from helping with my assignments to permitting me to stay whilst I was on the job. You know, most patients will report you to the agency if you're on the job studying, but he wasn't like that. Alex's wish was to see me turn a nurse one day and see me wearing my nursing uniform, but he passed right before my graduation. I'm sure he'll be proud of me whilst he rests peacefully. And least I forgot, lamb chops was one of his favorite food. As he would say, my aide makes the best lamb chops. Though Alex is no more with us, but he'll forever remain in my heart. Thank you.
By the way, that reminds me, please everyone stay for the reception. Call up some friends. We're going to have more food than we need. We didn't get lamb chops, but we're going to have a very nice spread out in the atrium when we're finished here. Before I invite Frank Verbsky up to play, I'd like, Roland, can we switch to the other slide? So just in case anyone is feeling generous, point your phone at the screen right now, and you can make a donation to the Alexander Kouguell and Florence Kouguell Scholarship Fund. Alex and Florence started the scholarship before, actually before Florence passed, and then added to that substantially over a number of years. And there is a room dedicated to them that's right outside the concert hall. It's the classroom right across the way. Please, Frank. We're very happy to have that. You can switch to the other one now. We don't want that showing while the performance happens, but we've also got it on the back of the program in case you need it. Just saying. Okay. Okay, he's going to get set up. Frank, I'm going to tell one of your stories, Frank. If you want to say something, you can come over to the microphone. But Frank related the story. He was a student of Alex's for a number of years, from the late 1950s until the late 60s. He was a student here at Queens College from 1960 until 1964. He was in the class that was the first group to be in what was then the brand new Rat House Hall. And happily, we're no longer there. We're in this gorgeous space. But Alex, if you know where he lived, you could probably roll a ball from the front door of the music building, and it would roll just about to his front door, because it was right across the street, right outside the Reeves Avenue gate. And Frank said that, told me that Alex, regardless of what the weather was like or whether he had the cello or he didn't have the cello, he drove. It was 150 yards, but he drove. It was a pretty big hill. And so that the students would know exactly where, if he was there or not, because he always parked in the same spot. And you could tell where you were. Okay, we're ready. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Verbs.
I have said this quite often over the past 30 years. Alex Kouguell was by far, the most important person and teacher beyond music that I ever had, bar none. He came into my life at an important and crucial time. Whether he knew it or not, he gave me a personal and music stability that I was lacking up to that point. To be honest, I was getting bored with the piano. And he saw it. He was soft-spoken, humorous, supportive person who saw and heard me playing poorly, and without coming down with a sledgehammer, the approach was subtle but important. Other comments constantly, coming along, put my mother off the edge, because she was looking for how are we going to yell at him on the way home from the lesson. He would take my cello and play beautifully and say, "I'm sorry, Franklin, it's not the cello." And then he followed it up with how to make it better. I studied with him over an 11-year period, 1957 to 1968. He had me cover 7 major study books and music from the Baroque to the 20th century. The whole piece, not just first movements, the whole thing. He confronted problems in repertoire that other teachers avoided or didn't understand. For him personally, as a member of the Queens College String Quartet, back in 1960, it was a god-awful concert. The audience was hysterical. And he came on to do a Hindemith unaccompanied piece, which started off with a C-sharp chord. And I thought, oh, this is going to be bad. He sat down with a pre-drilled hole in a brand new stage. The first chord, off without a hitch, and he could feel the audience settle. When the faculty quartet came up, the comment after the concert was, the cellist ran the show. Okay? And the same when I played a recording of the Rager piano trio. A clarinetist friend of mine said, you can hear that the cellist has total control over the ensemble, leading in a very quiet, understated manner. Much of what I do as a teacher, hopefully, comes from him. In closing, I think the saddest comment from Alex after his 100th birthday was that he no longer had the strength to lift the cello, and even if somebody placed the instrument in front of him, he had trouble moving his arms. His comment, I miss the cello. Can you put a little more light? The old man can't see.
Thank you, Frank. Well, what we're going to do now is move to an excerpt from Extreme Reflections. This is a film by Teresa Mular that during which there are extensive interviews with Alex, and here he is sort of telling his own origin story.
I was born in Simferopol, Crimea, that's in Russia. I was born in 1920, on March 27th. Well, both of my parents were musicians. Both graduated from the St. Petersburg Conservatory. My father, who was then, had a wonderful job in Simferopol. He was in his early 20s, and he was the director of a conservatory there. I don't know how he met my mother, but I think she taught at the conservatory as well. Both were distinguished pianists, especially my mother. She was a child prodigy, and might be interested to know that at the age of 12, she played a Mendelssohn concerto with the conservatory orchestra with the famous director, conductor of the orchestra, Glazunov, Alexander Glazunov. And that's when he came across the very famous pianist Alfred Cortot, who became eventually a very close friend. So my father, again, as director of the conservatory, used to engage many famous artists to come and play at the university. People like Rubinstein and, of course, Cortot and others. But with the Cortot, I will tell you something that must be of interest. It's the first thing that I really remember of any importance. After the recitals, my parents always invited the artists to our home. We had a little party, some good food and so on. So Cortot once came to the house, of course, and I was standing there, and he came and said, "Hey, Mopti, what do you do? Do you play anything?" I said, "Yeah, I play the cello." He says, "Well, let me hear something." It so happens that my father at that time had written a little concertino for me, which I played. So my father went to the piano, put the music down, and I tuned, and Cortot says, look, Mr. Kouguell, let me accompany you." So my father gave a seat to Alfred Cortot, and Cortot accompanied me in the concertino. And something that he never forgot, at the end, I went up, I was 10 years old, and I didn't know any better. I went up to him, I said, "Mr. Cortot, you accompany so well." And he laughed, and he remembered that every time he saw me. Many years later in Paris, when we went to the school, were connected, he would bring that up. So that was a little thing that I will never forget. A young man who was getting a degree in Princeton, his name was Leo Kraft. And somehow, we were talking, and again, he said, "Alex, I'm a graduate of Queen's College. They don't have a cellist there. I'm sure they might be interested." Well, before that, I had a job. I was at the Baltimore Symphony, but the seasons were short and was not too sure. I always looked for security. So thanks to Leo Kraft, I applied for a position at Queen's College. And sure enough, the chairman at the time was Boris Schwartz, who was also well known in his field. And he wanted to have a string quartet. So I made it. I got the job, and I started as a lowly instructor. And eventually, I worked my way up, to full professor. Now I'm professor emeritus. I spent 68 years of my life at Queen's College. I used to know a young girl. She had a friend at Columbia. They were both taking certain classes, and this young girl introduced me to another young girl by the name of Florence Kouguell. And the poor girl, she lived to regret it, because she had her eyes on me. She thought maybe I might marry her. But I married her friend. And that was in June 1948. And unfortunately, my wife died about a year and a half ago. We would have been married for almost 72 years. The main thing is to be able to project, because that's what it is about. You're playing for a public. You have to have the ability to touch people if you're lucky. And, well, sometimes you can make them cry. Secrets for living a long life. What do I say? Well, I tried as much as possible to take care of myself, in spite of all the goodies that are around. You know, everything in moderation. And my secret also to have had a wonderful wife, you know, all the years. She was always with me. She came to all the rehearsals, and just be as happy as possible and have as few enemies as possible. I was lucky. One misconception about aging. First of all, you know, I never knew many people who were 80 or above, and I thought, you know, that it wouldn't be easy. My dream for music is to be able to have it come to life again.
So we will now assemble. You see in your program, I'm going to talk for a minute while we bring everyone on stage. You see in the program that the next thing is a little arrangement that I made of the Bach Gounod for Sarah Strozzo, who is an Aaron Copland School of Music student. She's a student of our current cello professor, Marcy Rosen. And she is the recipient of the Alexander and Florence Kouguell Memorial Scholarship at the moment. Congratulations, Sarah. And thank you. And because as we were practicing and putting things together, we discovered that we had enough musicians in the house. I redid the arrangement for a cello ensemble. And we're going to have one of those cello parts played on the viola by Yo Cheng Ma. Sarah will play the solo part. Another current student, Sarah Arango, will play along with Frank Verbsky and Dail Yang. Dail was a student just a few short years ago, right, Dail? It wasn't that long ago. When we were talking about Alex's his music and his history at the college, one of the things he said, you know, he knew Karl Rathaus, the composer for whom the building is named, and he remembers Rathaus coming to a rehearsal of the Queen's College String Quartet, for which Alex played the cello, and the other players were other faculty, Boris Schwartz, Albert Mell, Carl Eberl. These are fine musicians, but not quite on the level of Alex. And Alex told me that they were struggling through a Rathaus string quartet, and Rathaus came in and said to them, "Why can't you all play like Alex?" That didn't make the rest of them happy, but we're all going to play like Alex right now. Can we have some downward light on the stage, please? Is someone backstage? The players need there. That's a little better. Okay, thank you very much. Alex, always love that. Oh, yes.
I just wanted to, with this piece, to express all my gratitude to the scholarship fund, because without that, I would never be able to come to New York and pursue my dreams and be in this wonderful school. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Sarah is from Italy. Near Venice? Yes. Yes, near Venice. Could be near anywhere in Italy. It would be just fine, as far as I'm concerned. So now, what I'd like to do, Roland, we're going to run the slideshow. Let's just run the slideshow. I'm going to say, I'm going to advance it because we've got time, I think. So I went through and found a great deal of some old photos, and I was going to talk over this, but we'll go through it quickly. Next. Alex was a member of the New York Chamber Soloists, which was a very active group in the early 60s and 70s. And if you look in the back, there's a young Frank Morelli who is in this shot. It was a very active chamber ensemble in New York City. Next. So this is, we don't know exactly when this was because Alex was ageless. So we really don't know when this was, but it's sometime in the 70s or 80s. Next. This was the faculty. I've got two shots here of the faculty. Alex is not in this shot. He's in the next one, but there's Joel Mandelbaum in the front. And then in the next one, there's Alex in the middle. I need to go over here so I can see what it is. And you can see the names on the bottom. So Alex, let's go next. That's fine. Alex celebrated 30 years at Queens College with a lovely recital with his colleague, Professor Leon Palmers, on the piano. His 30-year anniversary was in 1978. That's just incredible to me. 1989, this is just before we moved into the new building. There he is in the front row. Roy Nitzberg is there, he's in the audience. And Joel Mandelbaum is there, he's in the audience. This was his colleague, Leo Kraft. Next. Patty Kopek was one of the faculty members at the time. Next. Joel Mandelbaum and Ray Erickson were a couple of years younger. Next. Ronnie Roseman was another esteemed faculty member who played chamber music with Alex. Next. This is Sam Rhodes, who was a student in the 60s. This looks like it's in M11. Sam Rhodes became the violist for the Juilliard String Quartet. Back, not yet. Boris Schwartz and Pamela Ross. Okay, now. There we go. And Maury Ritt played more recitals in that room than she probably cares to count. But there we are in M11. It was a pretty good space. The recordings that we were able to make there didn't sound bad, but it was not as nice as this room, certainly. Next. There's a couple of, a more recent photo. I don't know who that kid is on the end, but it was from a couple of weeks ago, yeah. With R.B. Ornstein. I was backstage at this concert hall. Next. I think I still have that tie. Another student. Alex was so supportive of students. I'm not sure who this was, but it's just found in a trove of pictures I found. Next. And here he is. Oh, that's Janet Holmes. I was trying to think of her name. It just came to me. That's Janet Holmes with Alex showing the way. Next. There's the Queen's String Quartet. Debbie, you'll have to, Debbie Assail is in the room tonight. She's the cellist of that group. This is one of the iterations of that group. I'm not exactly sure when that was, but Debbie, I think you were in high school. Next. And this was another student at the time, Joanne Folletta, who happens now to be the music director of the Buffalo Philharmonic. Next. There's another iteration of the string quartet. Julie was the first violin, and Lisa Tipton, yeah. Lisa Tipton, there's Debbie, and Alicia Razalowski. Yes, I remember Alicia very well. Just couldn't remember her name just there. Alex and I had more visits together, I think, during COVID than before. Next. And we went over and presented these commendations to them for their gifts to the college. Next. President Wu and Yu Cheng Ma came over one day. We had spring rolls. Next. And then on March 27th, we had a Zoom for Alex with about 50 people on it. Next. And the following year, we had another one with 50 people on it. Next. This is also from the 101st. Everybody didn't fit on one screen. Next. There's Marilyn. Next. This is the 102nd, also with 2 screens. Next. This is Alex's son, Raymond, and his wife, Karen, outside of the plaque, which is right across the hall on the outside the room here. Next. And there he is. So now what I'd like to do is to read a few things because I was given some things via email from some people that couldn't be here. One of those was his colleague, Alan Brings. And Alan sent a few comments regarding his long association with Alex. So this is Alan Brings speaking. I first knew Alex when I was 17 years old and attended his music appreciation class. It was Alex as a teacher that made me decide that I wasn't going to transfer to Columbia University to use the New York State scholarship I had earned. One memorable experience took place while rehearsing a movement from a Beethoven piano trio during a chamber music ensemble class. Alex unexpectedly appeared. Even as I write this, I can vividly recall how I immediately demanded more from myself and how I could always raise my artistic expectations thereafter if I knew you were listening. That's what a good teacher does. I still cannot adequately express my gratitude for your willingness to perform and even record my music after I became your colleague at Queens. That's true of several of us. You not only understood music that you had never been acquainted with, but you were willing to put in your valuable time to learn to play it so well. I'm not exaggerating when I express how happy I am that you have lived so long. As absurd as it may seem, I would be grateful if you continued to live well beyond the age of 101. Well, he did. He got it to his 102nd birthday. Alex's colleague, R.B. Ornstein, music history professor, writes the following. Alex was a beautifully gifted cellist and a wonderful colleague, and it was always a great pleasure to accompany him at the piano. In the course of my research in France, R.B. Ornstein is the world's leading authority on the music of Ravel. I was delighted to discover that a recorded composition of his father, Arkady Kouguell, was in the private record collection of Maurice Ravel. As Alex had once told me that his favorite chamber work was Ravel's Sonata for Violin and Cello. We at Queens College were all truly blessed to have him on our faculty for so many years. From R.B. Ornstein. And now I also have a short tribute from Susan Kouguell, who is Alex's niece. She's the daughter of his younger brother Maurice, who passed away in 2008. And Susan writes, one of the fondest memories of Uncle Alex when I was a young girl sitting with him in his music studio downstairs in their home in Flushing. Alex was teaching me how to play the recorder. I don't remember why we chose the recorder of all instruments, but what I do remember was how much we laughed and told each other jokes. That undeniable Kouguell sense of humor was shared by my late father, Maurice, and has passed down to my cousin Ray and to me. Uncle Alex then would show me treasured photographs and memorabilia and share poignant stories about his family. I recall these images as if they were yesterday and will forever hold those memories in my heart. Alex and Florence's son, Raymond Kouguell, could not be here with us. Ray is retired after many years working as a producer for the Voice of America. By the way, Susan Kouguell, his niece, is a screenwriter and a filmmaker. Ray was a producer for Voice of America. Ray writes the following. Thank you all for coming to this commemorative event. My dad was a concert artist, mentor, teacher, and friend to so many, some of whom are here today. But to me, he was always my father. One of the great contributions my dad made to my life was his French education. His fluency was frequently tested on Saturday nights at 7:30 when we watched the ABC television show Combat. Every red-blooded American kid who grew up in the 60s watched that show. We'd watch the show crunching on our bags of Wise potato chips. One of the platoon members was a guy named, was a character who was a Cajun. Creatively enough, he was named Cage. He was the only soldier, the only American soldier, who could speak French. So the platoon fought in the French theater in World War II. Ray actually knows that nothing was filmed in France. It was all right off the Ventura Highway in California. Nevertheless, whenever they encountered some French peasants or orphan kids or nuns on the show, they all looked like Debbie Reynolds. The characters would speak French. We turned to my dad quickly. What did they say? He was consistently ahead of Cage's translation to Sergeant Sanders and the rest of the squad. My dad's speed in translation was so accurate and so fast that a UN job could have been waiting for him. He also knew grammar, and boy, did he ever help me in junior high school. I had the greatest tutor for my homework assignments. When we had to write a short story in French, well, let's just say it helped. I also had a lot of time behind the scenes with my dad. Because we lived in Queens and had to fight the traffic to Manhattan for rehearsals and concerts, finding a parking spot was consistently a hellish overture. We'd leave very early as a family so that we could park on the street. This is me talking now. Alex was a man of modest ambitions and spectacular achievement, I have to say. So they'd go early to park on the street. We would arrive at the concert halls way before showtime, and in that pre-concert time, I made a personal adventure of it by going out on stage alone for a few minutes, look out into the empty hall, and take in the artistic magnificence at the same time knowing my dad would perform on the same spot before hundreds of occupied seats. I was able to set foot on a lot of great places. Lincoln Center's Philharmonic Hall, Avery Fisher, Carnegie Metropolitan Museum, Grace Rainey Rogers Auditorium, the Frick Museum, and my favorite, Town Hall. Not the most resplendent venue, but the one I visited often when my dad was part of the New York String Trio in the early 60s. I really got to know that stage and backstage too. So these memories reach their musical coda. Please accept my deep gratitude, along with my wife Karen, my dad's granddaughter Emma, granddaughter Anne, and her husband Greg, and their daughter Rosalie. And know that I also got to stand there on Lefrak Concert Hall stage with Karen, many decades later, guided by Ed Smaldone. Thank you, Ray. Our heartfelt thanks to you all for this tribute to my father. And I've actually got just a couple of things I'd like to say. Speaking as a one-time student of Alex Kouguell's, I had him for sight singing. I also had him in the music education cello class. And then later as his colleague. He also played my music. I wrote the fastest passage for pizzicato that he says he ever had to practice. And he did an amazing job. He complained, but he did it. I had a wonderful relationship with Alex for many years, continuing after he retired. When I became director of the school in 2002, Alex was still coaching chamber music. We paid him for 1 hour. He gave us 2. Don't tell the dean. I corresponded and spoke with him many times over the years. Alex was one of the few masters of the internet aged 100 or more. He regularly was on Facebook, he sent emails, he watched videos on his iPad. I think I visited him in person more times during COVID than before. We all needed human contact. And it didn't get more human than to just sit and chat. We did that a lot. The last time I saw him, he was on hospice in his bed in that house next to Reeves Avenue Gate. By the way, Ray told me the Reeves Avenue Gate, when they were kids, that was how you got a home run in stickball, is if you hit it over the Reeves Avenue Gate onto the campus. One of the very last things Alex said to me, he said, "Well, Ed, I think I'm ready for my permanent sabbatical." Then he smiled. He was an amazing musician and a lovely man. We're gonna miss him. We have one last treat. Allowing Alex to get the last word with his beloved colleague, Maury Ritt, playing the piano on this stage in a recording from 1995 at the memorial concert for another colleague, David Walker, who left us too soon. I believe Maury Ritt and also Bunny Walker, David's widow, are watching the live stream. Also watching are Alan Brings and R.B. Ornstein. Joel Mandelbaum is in the house. Michael Lipsy, our current director. Roy Nitzberg is out there. David Schober, I saw earlier. Karen Smaldone, the other Professor Smaldone, who everybody likes more than me, is here. When I think about the many years, Alex's time, how many years his time at Queens represents, the number of faculty meetings he attended, all the gossip he was privy to over so many years. But Alex was not a gossip. He was so dignified, so disappointing. When we had Alex with us, we had a direct line, a direct connection back to the very beginning of the music program, back to 1948, 1949. We've lost that. There's a new generation of faculty who are here at the school right now. They can do no better than to maintain an atmosphere of excellence and camaraderie, similar to the one that Professor Kouguell and his colleagues created. For many, many years, we've been the envy of many, many of the programs. We still are. It is still a very special place, but we need to remember why, and all we need to do is think of Alex and the many other colleagues you work with. A great faculty comes together and builds a great school, nurturing outstanding students. It is a challenge I hope that they will all meet for many, many years to come in his example. Thank you, Alex. And now let's listen to Alex and Maury Ritt having the last word. I'm not sure what happened to that, but we get the idea. I mean, if anybody would like to have a link to the full recording of that, I'm happy to provide it. I think that it's time for us to retire to the atrium, and we have a lovely reception out there for everyone. Please join us. Please let me hasten to add that the staff, all the support staff, thank you very much to Kupferberg Center, to Ken, and to the staff for all their help. The staff and the help and the ushers, you're all invited to join. You don't have to wait. There's plenty out there. I hope somebody brought Tupperware. Okay, see you outside.